It's time for Come and Talk It with your host, Michael Cargill, brought to you by Texas Law Shield. Over the last decade, Michael has championed and supported the rights of law-abiding Texans to own and use firearms. He is the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, a veteran of the United States Army, and has achieved national exposure in such prestigious media outlets such as Forbes Magazine, Fox Business News, CNN Money, AOL, BBC World News, Huffington Post, and the New York Times. Cargill vigorously defends lawful gun ownership in this country without regard to party politics. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Good day, Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world. Let's praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. All right, so rhinos are taking away your Second Amendment rights. That's right, rhinos, Republican in name only, are taking away your Second Amendment rights for their lack of action. Republicans are not doing enough to stop the ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency, from creating new rules to hamper the Second Amendment. Also, the Kantor family gives us an update on the investigation into the mass shooting that killed Mr. Kantor there in Austin, Texas. There were 15 people were shot, 14 were shot, one was killed. Mr. Kantor there died in Austin, Texas, trying to enjoy himself, happened to be caught in the crossfire between rival gang members, ended up getting shot in Austin, downtown. Also, we have a Canadian comedian in the house, Bankas.
Yo, what's going on?
All right, joins the show to tell us how Canada is handling the lockdown. Going to talk about that. So we're going to travel all around the globe here. I guess we'll stay in portions of North America and just talk about that. I want to talk about the new winner of the worst airport in the country. Now, I love saying this, that Austin, Texas used to be the worst airport in the entire country. The worst airport in the entire country, where people forgot and took their guns through security. That used to be Austin Airport. But guess what? They've been knocked out of the runnings there. So there's a Georgia airport that has shattered another record for most guns found in luggage at security checkpoints, according to the Transportation Security Administration, TSA. In total, the TSA reported its officers at all of Georgia airports found a total of 542 firearms in travelers' carry-on luggage in 2021. So that means that, man, you people in Georgia need to learn what the laws are. Learn what the laws are when it comes to carrying your firearms. So that number is more than twice as many firearms that security officials found at airport in 2020, which happened to be Austin. So they doubled the Austin number. That's crazy. Nationwide, the TSA says they discovered one firearm doing a routine screening for every 97,999 passengers. And Georgia's rate was more than double that, with one firearm found for every 40,470 passengers. Now, the majority of firearms were found at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. That's right, Atlanta. Hot Atlanta. 507 found during their screenings. The jump in numbers from last year makes some sense because, in Georgia, the number of people screened at airports increased nearly 95% compared to 2020. In addition to possibly criminal charges for the firearm, travelers can face a civil penalty up to $13,900 per violation. So what you're looking at, let's say that happens in Texas. In Texas, we had an elected official that made a mistake and went to the airport in Texas, and he carried his firearm. And he went through the checkpoint. And they said, boom, you have a gun in your bag. He said, oh, my goodness. Hold on. This is a mistake. I'm an elected official. I have a license to carry a handgun. He said, we need to change the law. So you know what they did, Zach?
Change the law.
They changed the law. That's right. So in Texas, if you're in Texas and you get your license to carry a handgun and you forget and you take your gun through security, you can say, oopsie, my bad.
And let me guess, they changed the law before he was arrested and prosecuted for it, right?
Yeah. But it didn't backdate it, though. All right. So then they will walk you to your vehicle. You can say, oopsie, my bad. They'll walk you to your vehicle, let you lock it up in your vehicle if you have a license to carry a handgun. But if you do not have a license, that is a felony, 2 to 10 years in jail. Don't drop the soap. So, but in Texas, you got your handgun license. And do you know, Zach, that you can get a handgun license in Texas in less than 30 days?
That's quick.
But it takes you about 6 months to get your driver's license because they're all backed up. But you can get a gun license. That's Texas, the Lone Star State, baby. Come on to Texas. You get a gun license, boy, faster you can get your driver's license. Boy, you going to learn today.
But a license to carry is not valid as your ID in the airport.
Not the airport, but everywhere else. I want to go vote, I can use my gun license. That's right. I want to buy alcohol, I can use my gun license. I want to get into a bar, I can use my gun license. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Peace, this is Maj Toure. You're listening to Come and Talk It Radio with Michael Cargill.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, we're going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
That's right. We're back and we're talking about current events. I want to talk about the mass shooting that took place in Austin, Texas last year. And so there were 14 people shot and one person was killed, murdered in this shooting. This was a mass shooting. There was a bunch of gang members that apparently they met each other downtown Austin. They were all minors, by the way. They're all underage.
Okay.
And they all had illegal guns. Underage minors with illegal guns. And they went downtown Austin. ran
That could be
across
a white
each other.
supremacy problem.
No, no, they were all black. And they passed each other on the streets there. And when they ran into each other, they pulled out guns, ended up shooting at each other, missed each other, and shot all innocent people.
So are you going to be giving gang members some free training, some free accuracy training to help out?
I wish I could, because that way they can at least shoot each other and not the innocent people.
Right.
I'd rather them take each other out.
That's the real issue here.
Yeah,
is that
and don't shoot innocent
They
people.
need to be better at
Come
shooting.
see me. Take a class. Seriously. But I want to bring into this conversation, I want to talk to the family of Doug Kantor. Doug Kantor was the young man that was actually killed that day. And I want to bring his family into the conversation because we need to talk about this. We need to get some updates on what happened. We need to get into the details of what happened that night because the DA is not taking this serious at all. The DA is not prosecuting all of these guys. You know, there are a lot of people involved in this situation. They all had illegal guns, and they're not being prosecuted for this crime to the full extent of the law. You know, we have what we call the law parties, which means that if I'm there, you know, we're in a group, we're in a gang, and we're downtown, something happens, you pull your gun out, you shooting, we get into a fight with this other group, we are all equally charged because we're all involved in that. They call it a law of parties. Well, they all should be charged, everyone in both of those groups, because they engaged in something and a bunch of people were injured and one person shot and lost their life. And so the DA is just not taking this serious at all. And I'm not sure why. I don't know what it is about these liberal DAs in these liberal cities. And by the way, give me a call. My number is 512-643-5483. That is 512-643-5483. Give me a call and talk to me, because liberal cities with these liberal district attorneys and liberal judges are not doing their jobs. And that's why we're having the problem that we're having in all these liberal cities. And crime is increasing dramatically because they're not holding people accountable. But I want to bring into the conversation Nick Kantor, who happens to be the brother of Doug Kantor, who lost his life last year in Austin, who happened to be just here visiting on vacation to have a good time and died in our city. Nick, welcome to Come and Talk It, sir.
How are you, Michael? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more with what you just said. And I think it'd be a great idea for them to come get some lessons on shooting with you because they could definitely use it based on their accuracy on 6th Street that night.
Yeah. And, I want to thank you, your family. You guys sent me a package in the mail. And I want to thank you guys because I did get it. I did receive it. Just so you know, because I didn't tell you this before.
Is it hydroxychloroquine?
No, no. It's one's a shot glass, I believe, right? Is that right, Nick?
Yep, shot glass, and there should have been a little football for you there.
Yeah. Got the little football as well. One of my employees stole that from me, so I don't have that one here. And then another one,
So nice.
another one I like is a little ornament that we can hang up of it's like a picture of Doug.
Yeah, it's like it's actually laser engraved on a piece of wood, and it has like a picture of him. They actually came out really well. We were very happy with the result, and I believe there was a picture of my brother as well on a card with a little description about him and some of the things he loved and stood for.
Right. And so it's this is there's a story behind these words. It says to my friend for life. Also talks about his experience and also talks about his other friends and things like that. Yeah, very nice words. So I wanted to let you know that I did receive that and also received a letter with it as well. So I want to thank you for that.
Of course, I'm glad you got everything. We were worried about the postal transaction, but I'm glad it all got there.
And then I want to ask you, what are the updates? What's going on with this case? So first of all, how many people were involved in this situation that took place? And I believe it was June of last year.
Yep. So we were told there were anywhere between 8 to 14 people involved in the shooting. As far as the two groups or gangs that were shooting at each other, it's never really been made clear exactly how many. But right now, there are 2 people charged. One of them is DeAndre White. He's charged with the murder and only the murder, as far as we know. He has not seen any court dates other than to be indicted. But unfortunately, Jeremiah Tabb was released on Thursday with no bail. We're told he's on some form of house arrest where he's allowed to attend school, and that if he were to get a job, he could apply to even have that lifted. And if that were the case, then he would pretty much be able to go right back to whatever he feels like doing.
So you mean this guy here can he can get a delivery job for Little Caesars or Pizza Hut and deliver pizzas and then deliver drugs as well.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we're told in so many words, and that was my question to the district attorney, and the answer was kind of, there wasn't one. Let's just say that. So basically, that is the ultimatum of what's going on with Jeremiah Tabb. He's basically released on those terms, and he could pretty much go back to doing what he was doing.
Wow, crazy. All right, so let's go back to this night here. All right, so 14 people were shot, and then your brother was shot as well, and then later died. Now, and what the DA and what the law enforcement APD is saying is that these are all innocent people. Didn't have anything to do with the confrontation. They just happened to be downtown Austin and got caught in the crossfire. And so, how many people were on either side of this confrontation of the gang members?
Like I said, it wasn't made clear exactly how many were on Tabb and DeAndre White's side and how many were on the opposing side. I do know that one of the members of the opposing gang was shot by Tabb about 10 days prior to the incident on 6th Street, and that's what bled over into the 6th Street shooting, was that there was this rivalry or dispute that wasn't finished. So they decided to try to finish it on 6th Street in a crowd of people, and Tabb and this other gentleman, or I won't call him a gentleman, but Tabb and this other kid, they were the ones having the problem. But according to the district attorney, DeAndre White was the one who pulled his weapon and shot. And 14 people were shot. Supposedly, DeAndre White was the only shooter, but that's all we have to go on. We do know that Tabb was caught with an illegal firearm. We do know that the groups of people collectively were caught with about 13 illegal firearms. I was never told, or it was never made clear to me, which group had which guns and who from which group had what guns.
And so we're talking all minors here. We're talking minors in possession of illegal firearms, because they were minors. They should not have had handguns on the streets of Austin, Texas. And you're saying 13 guns were recovered by law enforcement, 13 guns. And to my knowledge, I don't think anyone's been charged with having an illegal gun.
Not one single person was charged with having an illegal gun, and they were all between the ages of 15 and 21 years old, from what we were told. And not one of them has been charged with possession of an illegal weapon or an illegal firearm, which is incredible, because Tabb was actually caught with the murder weapon. So that was a firearm. It was a Glock. They didn't say the model. It was a 9mm, but he was caught with a firearm that was used in the murder that, according to the prosecutor, did match up ballistically. So you have him in possession of the murder weapon, and you're not charging him with possession of an illegal weapon.
All right, so let's go back a little bit. So the shooter, what's his name?
The shooter was DeAndre White.
Okay, so DeAndre White had the gun. He did the shooting. And so this other guy actually held on to the gun for DeAndre and hid it from law enforcement. Is that correct?
That's correct. And he was also at the shooting, so it's not like he can say he wasn't aware of what the gun had done or why he was hiding it. And there is no plausible deniability.
So not only was he trying to hide the firearm, he also tried to sell the firearm on social media. Is that correct?
That's correct. luckily enough, he was dumb enough to try to sell the weapon on social media. Otherwise, we may have never recovered it.
And so they recovered the weapon how many days later?
About 6 months later, give or
6 months
take.
later. Wow. So 6 months later, they recovered the firearm that this guy, that was used to shoot 14 people, kill one person, and then he tries to sell it on social media. And 6 months later, they recovered this firearm, and I tell you, this is crazy. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about more of this story, get into more of the details, because something needs to be done here in Austin. We need more law enforcement. We need something to be done at the DA's office. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back and we're talking with the family of Doug Kantor. We're actually speaking with Nick Kantor. We're talking with Nick Kantor about his brother who was shot and killed last year. June 12th is when the shooting was. Doug actually died on June 13th. And so we're going over the events that happened that day. We're talking about the current events, the updates in this case of this shooting. And so, Nick, you were telling us about, the people that were, involved in this incident. So the shooter, the guy that did the shooting, this guy was arrested finally. And I don't know if he's been charged yet. I guess you'll tell us that. And then there's another guy who held on to the gun for the shooter. He was hiding the gun and then tried to sell the gun on social media. And the law enforcement finally recovered the firearm 6 months later. And so this guy has not been charged with anything.
Well, actually, he has been charged with tampering of evidence, but that is the only charge, and he is released on bail for that charge. And the prosecution is not taking it very seriously at all. In fact, last Thursday, he had a bail reduction hearing where the judge that was at the hearing denied the request to reduce the bail. Sometime behind the scenes over the course of from that Thursday to the Thursday that had just passed, something happened. They changed judges, this judge Ureta had a very 180-degree change of heart, and he basically made the case for the defense and let the kid out on house arrest, which is eventually going to turn into his freedom because he's already allowed to leave the home to go to school, and when he gets a job, he will have his house arrest lifted, essentially. So you have one judge ruling against the release of this criminal, and a week later, a separate judge that is more closely tied to Jose Garza releasing him with no bail. And it just makes you wonder, like, where is this going? What's the purpose of releasing this kid? I mean, it's not like he was caught up, with the wrong group of friends. I mean, he was the sole purpose of this fight. If Jeremiah Tabb is not at that place on 6th Street, the shooting doesn't happen. Jeremiah Tabb is the center of this entire thing, and he's now home, probably watching Netflix or watching this interview, perhaps, maybe playing video games, maybe even selling drugs. I mean, we don't know what he's doing, but we know he's not in jail where he belongs.
And so, all right, man, and my heart goes out to your family because you're dealing with a lot right now because you're wanting justice for your brother. He was here in Austin, on vacation to have a good time, and this is not how things should turn out. And this is not how we treat people that come to Austin. So the DA needs to do something, and everyone should be calling the Travis County DA's office and say, hey, justice needs to be served. We need a jury to hear this case. We need everyone, all parties involved to be to have their day in court. They need to be tried for what happened on that day. You have people that are out and about trying to have a good time, and then they pull out firearms illegally. They're minors. Kids should not have had guns in the first place. And I don't think they got the guns from their parents. I think they stole the guns or bought the guns from somewhere else. And they have these firearms illegally as minors, and they go out and just shoot, end up trying to kill each other and shoot innocent people. And something needs to be done about this. We need the DA to do his job, the district attorney. And there are two people I always say during election time that are the most important in any area. There are two people. One is the sheriff, and the other is the district attorney. The sheriff is the one responsible. That is the chief law enforcement officer in that county. That sheriff can kick the FBI out of the county if they want to. That sheriff is very powerful when it comes to the law. And then when it comes to prosecution, that goes to your district attorney. Those two people are the most important people in your county. So if you don't know who your DA is, you don't know who your sheriff is, you're not doing yourself any justice at all. And something needs to be done. We need this DA to bring these people to justice because, they had guns. They all had guns they should not have had. And all the other people are not being charged with anything. And that should not stand. I don't understand that. I mean, I'm really a lost for words here. Right, Nick?
No, me neither. I mean, generally speaking, what I've seen in prosecutions is that they charge as many charges as they possibly can apply to the evidence that they have, and then through the process of litigating before the courts start, they generally offer a plea deal, or they reduce the charges, or they just go to trial, and some charges get omitted or ruled out. But it seems like this is the opposite approach. They're trying to charge as little bit as possible. And I don't know what their intention is. I hate to say it, but I almost hope that I almost feel that the prosecution hopes that the charges won't even sit, because what other reason would they have for not charging them with possession of a firearm? I mean, we know they had possession of firearms because there was a shooting. So, that goes without saying. Why wasn't Tabb charged with accessory to murder? He was there. He was part of the shootout. He actually caused the shootout. If Tabb isn't there, my brother's still alive. So why is he back out on the street? Because the prosecution wants him to be. That's the short answer. Right. There is no other reason why. If the prosecutor wanted him in jail, he'd be in jail. during the hearing, the prosecutor didn't really say anything in opposition. If you watch, there's a channel on YouTube where you can watch last Thursday's court cases. And if you scroll to Tabb's hearing, the prosecution doesn't even make an argument that he should stay in jail. I mean, it's like they were totally accepting the fact that he was going to get out, and so was the judge, because the judge was making the argument for the defense. The judge was like on board with letting this kid out, and it's like, we almost feel like we're getting scammed. It's like, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I used to watch these shows on ID, and as a family, when me and my brother were little, we'd watch these murder mysteries and stuff. And it seemed like, the cops and the district attorneys and everybody who had anything to do with that area, even innocent bystanders, vigilantes, they were out trying to get the bad guy, trying to get the murderer. And then at the end of the show, they always got the bad guy, and the family got this sense of, justice was served. And for my family, we're like, we see that everyone's got the evidence, they got the guys in custody, but they don't want to serve justice. And it's like the hardest part is already done. You have the murder weapon, you have the charges, you have the perpetrators, but you're just not charging them. And it's like, we're like helpless in the sense that there's nothing more as a family that we can do besides just watch these two people get away with murder, literally. And not only that, but for the sake of public safety, you're going to let this guy go back out onto the street so he could do this again? I mean, it's not like, they had a shootout in an alley and a stray bullet hit my brother and he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. They had a shootout in the middle of a crowd of hundreds of people with no regard for who they shot. These people don't care about anyone else but themselves. I mean, that's clear. If they did, they would have done this any other place, or they would have tried to sneak up. I mean, there's a million other ways they could have carried out this shootout other than doing it on 6th Street that night. So, they're dangerous people. They're not people that should be trusted to just go back out into the world and with just a slap on the wrist, not even a slap on the wrist, because he really did nothing. He was in jail for a few days or a few weeks, and he's back out on the street. And essentially, he probably will not be back in jail unless the prosecution changes its tone. And the only way that's going to happen is we're going to need a lot of pressure on them. And that may not even be enough with this district attorney, because he's vowed to be harder on cops and softer on crime. And it's very clear he's attacking police officers for doing their job while he's letting murderers walk back to their homes and walk right out of prison.
And Nick, we have some people from the DA's office listening to us right now. What would you like to say to them personally?
I would like to ask them how they live with themselves, doing the job that they do every day, because you don't need to be a very moral or religious person to know what you're doing is wrong. And know that my family is suffering, and as well as 100 other families whose family members were murdered in Austin, Texas this year. You know what you're doing is wrong, and you're doing it anyway. And one day there's going to be a penance to pay for that. And whether it's in this life or the next, you're going to have to answer for what you did in this life. And maybe if what it's going to take is for your family member to be the one shot and laying on a quarter, bleeding out by themselves because their family is 1,000 miles away. And maybe that's what it'll take for you to realize how we feel. But you're going to get yours one day.
And Nick, the Mayor Adler, says this is a gun problem. Would you agree with that?
It's the furthest thing from gun problem. Actually, one thing I did want to bring up, and I'm glad you reminded me, was so some of the footage from that night showed multiple people in the crowd drawing firearms, drawing weapons, more than likely legal gun owners, and they did not fire. They did not shoot their weapons because they were not part of the the gang violence going on, and instead they fled. So that just goes to show you the difference between a responsible gun owner and somebody who illegally obtains a gun and doesn't think twice about discharging into a crowd. And I think that's a very important point to make against what the mayor said, because am I still there?
Yes, sir, you are.
Sorry, I had a phone call come in. So I think that's a very good point to make against what the mayor said, because it's just the furthest thing from it. Having stricter gun laws wouldn't have prevented these kids from getting firearms illegally, and I guarantee you that they will get firearms illegally again. I can promise you that Tab will definitely have a firearm again illegally, and he'll probably shoot someone else or get shot himself. But the people that, as well as I do, if you have a legally owned firearm that's registered to you and you shoot somebody, you can't just walk away, because if they get the ballistics from that bullet, it might not happen right away, but eventually it's going to get traced back to that gun that you own. And if you dismantle the gun that you own, or you get rid of it, well, somebody's going to wonder where the gun went, because you can't just get rid of a gun that's serialized. So you really don't want to commit a murder with a registered gun and a legally obtained gun unless you're in the right and you're in self-defense. And, having a stricter gun law would have done absolutely nothing in this case.
All right. And that's, thank you, Nick Kantor. That's Nick Kantor, the brother of Doug Kantor, giving us an update on, the mass shooting that took place in Austin, Texas, giving us an update on that case and, what's going on with it. And, pretty much, what we can do is we need to focus on the DA, the district attorney's office, and get them to do their job and prosecute everyone involved in this situation. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Hi, this is Stephen Williford, the Barefoot Defender. I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
Hello, my name is Edwin Walker. I'm an independent program attorney with Texas Law Shield. I want to talk to you today about an issue that we see on a daily basis. In fact, you yourself will encounter it on a daily basis, and that is the subject of road rage. I am sure that you have all seen road rage. You may have actually been involved in a road rage incident. Now, if you're a responsible gun owner, I'm going to give you a few words of advice on how to react when you find yourself in one of these unfortunate road rage incidents. While on the roadways, we all observe something that makes us upset. Whether it's poor driving, unsafe driving, or just simply somebody being very discourteous. By all means, you should restrain yourself from engaging that person and telling them how bad their actions were, because this can be perceived as an act of road rage. If you're a lawful gun owner, you have a firearm in your vehicle, you do not want to be viewed as the aggressor in a road rage situation. Now, with regard to a situation where an individual has chosen to rage against you, and you are the actual victim of the road rage, if you and the other individuals are still in their automobiles, do not use your firearm to respond to any of the rager's activities. This is because law enforcement views the fact that you're both still safely in your metal boxes as removing any threat of immediacy that you may be harmed. So please, if you have a gun, somebody is raging against you, forget you have a gun. Don't display it, don't brandish it, don't show it, don't point it, and for God's sake, don't fire it. This could result in a lot of trouble for you. Now let's look at a situation where a road rage incident has escalated. It has escalated to the point where one of the participants has actually gotten out of their vehicle. We recommend that you stay in your vehicle at all times. Do not exit your vehicle, because the person who exits their vehicle is going to be looked at as the aggressor. If the other individual has exited their vehicle and they are not in contact with your vehicle, and they do not have a weapon, then do not feel that you can display your weapon in an act of self-defense. People are allowed to just simply stand there and scream at you, scream whatever they want. Until they make a demonstrative effort to try to harm you, there is no immediate threat that would justify displaying or shooting or brandishing your firearm. Now, in the event that the person shows their own weapon, in particular a firearm, the existence of their weapon
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
Man, let me tell you, Zach, did you know that there was a big, huge uproar around the world this month because a laboratory study that found that compounds in cannabis had the potential to stop COVID from entering human cells?
Oh, that's big.
That's big.
What does that mean?
So
you should do?
So the question was, does getting high increased immunity? Well, does COVID? I guess weed. So does it give you like a immunity against COVID-19? So we'll find out. I'll tell you the answer to that a little later. But I want to welcome to the conversation here. I want to talk to my Canadian comedian, Ben. How you say the last name?
Bankas.
Ben Bankas joins us on the show. He's going to talk about Canada. What is going on in Canada? It's a huge lockdown in Canada. They're just shut down for like 2 years. What's going on?
Well, everybody's high, so technically they shouldn't have COVID because weed's legal. So I don't know why anybody has any of it. They've been locked down on and off. You know what's crazy about all this is they never talk about the timeline. Like you never watch the news and they're like, here is the timeline of the last 2 years. Like they don't want you to know what the fuck happened. Oh, sorry, I can't swear.
Can't say that.
They don't want you to know what happened.
Okay.
And I find that that's a huge issue because then nobody knows when was the last lockdown? How long were we in lockdown the last time? Was it a week? Was it 2 months? So right now they just did about a month lockdown. It's going to end in Jan 31st.
Okay.
And then they're going to go back to half capacity, vax passports. So it's very likely every time they do this, essentially the cases will spike.
So you say passport. So that means I have to show a vaccine passport to go to certain places?
Yeah, you got to show a vaccine passport to go anywhere that isn't a grocery store, a pot shop, a liquor store.
You do have to show it for the liquor store, right?
No, they're trying to do that in certain states, provinces. So the French province are doing that, but
Quebec,
French people they're weird. They're not. I don't know. They're always doing new laws and stuff.
But they shut down gyms, right?
Yeah, they shut down gyms. Have been. I don't know. I don't even think gyms exist in Canada.
Yeah, don't even get healthy. Don't exercise.
In British Columbia, which is our furthest west province, the gym owners all banded together and essentially opened up at the same time. So they basically pushed. They did this one day.
They opened up against the lockdown?
They opened up against the lockdown, and then the government was like, okay, you can do that. So it proves, I mean, the funniest thing is it's Canada's great little example of, tyranny. And you can watch what's happening there, and you can watch the pushback and how it works. So I don't know if you know what's going on right now. I don't know if you're going to talk about that, but right now the big thing is the truckers in Canada are not allowed to go to the U.S. unless they're vaccinated. So that's like, I don't know, it's like a high percentage of the truckers that aren't vaccinated. I think it's like 40 to 60%. So we're talking like, I don't know, 100,000, 60,000 truckers. So they're doing a convoy from British Columbia all the way to our capital city, Ottawa. And they got like 60,000 trucks in a row on the highway. So that's
going to hold up traffic.
Yeah, well, that's what they're doing, and the government's basically saying like, oh, they're protesting poor road conditions.
And we already have a huge supply chain crisis.
Yes,
right
we do.
now.
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
and now they don't want to let unvaccinated truckers take their haul into the U.S. And at the same time, the U.S.-Mexico border, they're basically doing the same thing there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they plan. Like, I don't know if I can say that they planned it, but it kind of seems like because people were like, "Oh yeah, they're going to do the supply chain thing next," and everybody's like, "Oh, that's conspiracy theory again." And then it happened, and now they're like, "Oh well, actually, maybe it's a good thing, and we should start eating bugs, and we don't actually need to go anywhere, and you don't need a grocery shop. You can just eat tofu." Like, it's becoming that now Like it's the same thing when there was like the gasoline was expensive. They're like, well, maybe you don't have to drive. Maybe it's a good thing. Like they're just trying to spin every single crisis into, which is funny because it's like if it's a good thing, then why are we in a state of emergency?
You will own nothing and you'll be happy.
Well, yeah, that's how it is. I don't know if you saw Brussels right now in Belgium is like erupting in protest, and they got like the police trucks with the water cannons, like look like Grand
They're
Theft
spraying
Auto.
them.
Yeah, they're just spraying them and like kicking them out. With all the cops look like stormtroopers. It's insane.
You won't see that on CNN though.
No, of course not. But you'll see it. It's funny because they're like, they won't find out about it if we don't post it. It's like, actually, nobody's watching you. So they're actually going to find it out on Twitter in like 2 seconds, the second they wake up. I don't understand. Yeah, that's the manipulation that I see from the media where they're just like, people are like, what about this thing? And they're like, it doesn't exist to us in our little reality that we're trying to create.
Just ignore it and it'll go away.
Yeah, same as the earlier segment about the mass shooting in Austin. Like, how often is that on CNN or any of the mass shootings that aren't, just like a white guy who drew swastikas on his wall? Like he'll be on CNN.
That's the one that they love, right?
Right. But they even got to like check it. Like the guy in Vegas, I guess that was on every major thing. But that was the weirdest thing ever. Like that was like,
yeah, a lot of questions.
The news
about
didn't
that.
know how to really report on that either. Like you got to watch independent media to figure out what the heck was going on there.
Yeah.
The guy had like Gatling guns and had them like robotically like firing and stuff like
They're
that.
not. What's funny about that is that the mass media is not getting to the details of that. You can find out details about certain other things that have happened, but when it comes to that, what's the give me the meat. What actually happened. Give me all the fine print. You can't find out.
I think the majority of people are watching the media, like quote unquote, like CNN, the liberal media. They're mostly dementia patients in long-term care homes. Like
Yeah, and airports, right?
Yeah, I mean, nobody's watching anything in an airport. People have phones. Like there's free Wi-Fi at an airport. You're not watching a CNN screen unless you're a dementia patient going through the airport. And I think a lot. I could say this. My mom has dementia. God bless her soul. But what did she do for the last like 15 years before? She literally watched CNN all day, every day. And I think that's a lot of people. Like, and they're just, they just, I don't know if it's causing dementia, the CNN. Like, I don't know if that's a conspiracy, but I do think there's a coincidence between people who are completely out of their minds, legitimately, not just like the crazy, green-haired lesbians that are screaming. I'm talking about like people with dementia. They're psychotic.
In order
They're
to
psychosis.
actually believe what CNN is saying, you have to already have forgotten the things that they've said before and the lies that they have already told.
Right. And it's similar to Canada. Like Canada has state run media. So it's similar to like CNN and Fox, except the sense, they do it kind of through back channels, the way the money gets to CNN. It's not like the Democrats aren't like, hi, we give this much money. It's like through some back channels, but we don't have an opposition to that. So it's like you guys have CNN and Fox. We don't have that. We just have the liberal channel, which is CBC, CTV. There's like 3 of them, but they're all paid for by the government, and they all say the exact same stories. So we don't have like our media is totally biased in Canada. It's really insane.
All right. So does getting high increase immunity against COVID-19? What do you think, Zach?
I have no idea.
What do you think?
I think if you ask anybody who's smoked weed every single day since the beginning of the pandemic, they'll be like, yeah, I have not gotten sick at all. That's just like for me personally talking to people, but I don't really, they said it at the beginning of the pandemic and then they buried that article for a while. But like I think in like April or May of 2020, they were already saying that we think the cannabis may, if you smoke cannabis, you might not be able to get the virus as easy, partly because like your lungs already have stuff in them. So I don't think they want people to know that. But.
There's some experts here in this article says no, absolutely not. Does not. They're saying, hey, they agree that while the data from the study was interesting, it was provocative and definitely worth investigating further. They're saying little conclusion could be drawn from it for the real world right now. So they need more time.
Well,
I guess they kind of need more time for the vaccine as well, right?
It's not like scientists have ever said that cannabis didn't do what we now know it does, They've said that there's no scientific medical use for it for decades until like the last like 15-20 years when they realize, oh, like if we give it to people with this problem, they actually can function throughout the day and not have seizures 24 hours a day. So I wouldn't really, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what an expert is anyway. I don't know what they actually do.
We come back from the break and talk about some breaking news. There's some breaking news coming out of Austin here. I counted 4 homicides last night. Someone's telling me there were more than that. They're saying there were 6. I'm not counting 6. I need to see some stories. I see some incidents. I need to see some screenshots or something. I only counted 4. 4 homicides in Austin last night. We're going to talk about this stabbing that took place on 6th Street. Hasn't been reported on the news yet, but you know what? I got a video for you. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Hey, this is AWR Hawkins, Breitbart News, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, we're going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
Share that. All right, we're back and we're talking about some breaking news out of Austin, Texas. There were 4 homicides yesterday in Austin last night. Yesterday, I should say. 4 homicides yesterday. And one of the victims was stabbed on 6th Street and died. And we got a video here that we're playing right now for you. Take a look at this video here. This is Austin, Texas, downtown 6th Street. Crazy. Not enough law enforcement was down there. This happened early in the evening. This is like around between 8 and 9 p.m. So police weren't really there yet, like they normally are when you get down to the 10, 11, 12, 1, and 2 o'clock in the morning. So this is between 8 and 9. And so luckily there are security officers that were down there who had to jump in and assist, take care of the situation. But the victim eventually died, of what I'm hearing from the people down that were actually down there on 6th Street last night. And so, crazy scene. This is something that things like this, it's becoming common knowledge now. Since you've been here in Austin, it's been pretty crazy.
Yeah, I've tried to not get
Stay away from
stabbed
that?
And yeah, I'm hoping I don't. Yeah, it seems like a lot of stuff is happening here, but
it's a lot better than where you come from Canada.
I mean, I'm from Toronto, Canada. We have a decent amount of crime, people getting shot, mostly rappers. But we do have crime. We also have we have Somalians with AK-47s just running around. So it's a little different.
How do you get AKs in Canada?
Probably from you guys. From America?
Come on, really? No,
I don't know.
No.
Well, usually through America,
It would be
from
AR.
somewhere else.
If you said AR, I would believe you. AK,
yeah.
Nah, I don't think
Well, no, but actual AK-47. I don't know. Probably from Somalia, potentially.
Yeah, probably by
not
way,
sure.
Russia by way of Somalia.
Yeah, they come through America at some point, usually.
You think? Nah, you can't smuggle stuff into Canada from America.
Yeah, well, they're doing that. I mean, even Mexicans are doing that.
What? Say it's not so.
Yeah, Canada is, it's a huge border. It's one of the biggest land borders in the world. There's a lot of stuff getting, Canadians need their drugs and their guns.
Wow.
And they're not easy to get just in Canada.
How can you guys afford that? You're not working.
The government gives pretty hefty welfare check to anybody who doesn't work but has their vaccine. So you get about 2,000 Canadian dollars a month, which is, it's like $1,600 a month.
Oh,
You
wow.
only get
US.
that if you're vaccinated?
Well, that's not totally true, but if you don't get the vaccine, you get fired from your job because you didn't get it. You're not eligible for they call it a Canadian Emergency Relief Benefit. It's called CERB. So if you don't, if you get fired because you didn't submit to the government's wants and needs, then you don't get it. Pretty
harsh.
messed up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But a lot of people are on it. A lot of Canadian comics are making more money than they've ever made in their lives right now on welfare. So,
wow. That's crazy.
And people use that to buy. Honestly, there were people who did a bunch of scams with this emergency relief benefit and actually went out and bought a ton of guns and drugs and basically started their own criminal cells out of nothing because they were able to get 4 or 5 of them a month by using fraudulent names and stuff like that. And then the government came out and said look, we're not really gonna penalize anybody because they didn't want to penalize people that took the money and needed it but didn't really qualify, because all you had to do to get it was call a phone number to the government and be like, here's my social security number or whatever, and they would just send you cash immediately.
Nice.
Wow.
Speaking of AK-47, you hear about the guy that walked around the car dealership here in Austin with the AK?
Yeah, he got arrested, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He tried to ram the maintenance, the dealership door there. And,
See, they're around.
Yeah. He, and he walked around with the AK, had people running for their life, boy. They were running around trying to get out of there like crazy. That's one of those dealerships that posts a 30.06 sign says you can't bring guns inside.
What do you think the worst area is in Austin for crime, or is it just randomly everywhere?
Oh, I think it's just random now.
East side, maybe?
No,
Like
not
6th
even. It's
Street
been
seems-
gentrified. There's
Not
nothing wrong
the
with
entire area.
East side's been gentrified.
Not all of it.
There's good folks over there now.
The closer to 35 part.
Is it?
Mhm.
I don't know. 36 seems to be the worst to me. Downtown.
at night.
What was the stabbing? Like, who was committing the stabbing? Is this like a?
I don't have any details about who, what was going on or anything. There's no news story, anything about it. So I just got, just random people that are down there that were videotaping, so I don't have all the details.
Yeah, it's kind of terrifying because 6th Street, like when you're on it, like I've never seen any crime like that happen on it, and I'm on it quite a bit.
Right.
And then you hear about it, and you're like, Jesus. But then you just go, and you're like, which is not.
Let's go to 6th
great.
Street.
And then you have the cops are on horses, which makes you feel safe, but doesn't make any sense logistically.
What if I told you that most of those bars down there, 90% of the bars on 6th Street and Rainy Street, you can legally take a gun inside? What if I told you?
Right. Well, isn't that good?
Yeah, I think that's great.
Like legal, but they don't know if it's legal or not, right?
Yeah, it's legal.
No, but like, do they check if your gun's legal?
What do you mean check if a gun's legal?
Well, these guys who walked around 6th Street and did the mass shooting.
The reason why those were illegal is because they were minors. And as a minor, you can't, as someone who's younger than 17 years of age, you can't have a handgun and walk down the street with it.
Right. But I'm assuming they bought it on the black market.
And they can't buy a gun from a gun store legally, so they had to get it as a private sale as a gift. But then I believe the guns themselves were stolen.
Yeah, so somebody else can go to a store, buy it, and just give it to them.
Or they stole it, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Because in Canada, it's a little different because majority of the guns are from the U.S., so they're like all illegal in Canada. So that's like they haven't been sold in Canada. So they're like serial numbers ripped off.
Do you guys even have gun stores in Canada?
Yeah, we kind of. Yeah, it's a little different. We have gun stores. The gun laws are very strict, but you can get a gun. You have to do a 2-day course or a 1-day course. 1 day means you can only use like rifles and hunting guns, and then if you do you do a 2-day course, you can do like ARs and handguns and stuff like that. But you can't carry them anywhere, and you can't. Yeah, they have to be in a safe at all times. So
now, what are some of the crazy things you've seen here in Texas since you've been here? Anything crazy?
Honestly, not that crazy. Like
you gotta come to the gun store and do our comedy show, Guns and Giggles.
I'd love to. Have
you heard about it? Guns and Giggles?
Do you get shot if you don't?
No, nothing like that. No.
I don't know. The craziest. I mean, I had like a black dude like kicked my dog or something. I don't know. It was kind of weird. He was on a bicycle. But other than that, I haven't seen like a ton of really terrifying. I've seen a lot of people driving on the wrong side of the road really fast for no reason.
The wrong side of the road?
Like late at night. Yeah, just like going into the left lane and like passing people on like small streets and like ripping it.
You know why? Because a lot of the streets downtown used to be one-way streets, and they've changed them to go both directions now. And it's kind of caught me off guard. I've been driving downtown. I was driving downtown one day, and there was a car coming toward me. I was like, oh, my goodness, I got to panic because I've been used to this street being one way.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I'm seeing a car coming toward me, so it kind of caught me off guard there. So I can see that happening.
Yeah, that could have been it.
And then people are drunk, too.
Yeah, I try to, I don't know. I don't go out too much here, besides comedy and, I mean, I see a lot of this stuff. It seems to be happening at like 3, 4 in the morning.
Have you gone to the gun range to go shooting yet?
No.
No? Man, have you shot any guns at all?
Yes.
You have? What kind of guns have you shot?
It was like a handgun.
Okay, what kind of handgun was it?
I don't know. Like
what
a
caliber?
Smith & Wesson.
You know what caliber? 9mm? 9mm?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, awesome.
Maybe I didn't have ear protection. It was like one shot.
So you fired it with no ear protection on?
Yeah, it was like, it was.
Was this in Canada?
No.
just checking. Inquiring
This
minds
was,
want to know.
I don't know, but it was just like my friend.
It wasn't in Texas.
No, well, I don't know. It's allegedly, it was, I don't know, whatever.
Sir, where were you?
Yeah, exactly. No, we were. It was my friend. We were in Texas. We were just in the middle of nowhere. He's like, "You want to try it?" I was like, "Sure." And then I was deaf for like a day. Terrible, actually.
Great. Yeah.
I kind of hated it.
Yeah,
to be honest.
that's actually not fun. So yeah,
No.
should have brought you, and got you some ear protection, some eye protection, taught you a little bit about safety, how to hold, how to stand, and all the good kind of stuff, and then let you shoot. You have a good experience. Like this
Yeah.
morning, I took about I don't know how many people we had today. We had like 12 people, 15 people, I forget what it was. And at the end, they're like, "Man, that was really fun." Because you got to first talk to them, relax them a little bit, tell them, a little bit of the laws, what they can and cannot do, and then go over safety, show them how to hold, how to stand, and show them that the gun's nothing to be afraid of. And then we take them out to the gun range, and then they go shoot, and when they finished, they were like, man, that was really a lot of fun. You know,
Right.
we were scared at first. You know, we were, didn't know what to expect, but it turned out that was really great. Now we're ready to go eat lunch.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to come out to your range and like learn about it, guns and stuff like that. I don't know. It's a little different than just being on the beach at like 3 a.m.
Yeah, come on. Thanks for covering for me today, Michael, so I could go run the marathon.
Oh, yeah, you did a marathon. How was that?
Oh, it was personally not very fun. My calf just locked up
Boston?
literally within the first minute of this marathon starting. So
No
I had
way.
to just limp run through this entire marathon.
Oh, should have called me. I'd have carried you.
Oh, why, thank you. I don't know if they allow that. Might be against the rules.
Was that an Austin marathon?
The 3M half marathon.
3M.
Mhm.
So what did you come in like?
Oh,
10th place?
I was happy to finish.
You like walk, run?
Just a hobble run. Basically.
Hobble run?
Mhm.
All right, we come back from the break. Going to talk about this Georgia pastor and the wife are charged with false imprisonment after people were found in a locked basement of their home. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Coley on Noir, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs but you say something incriminating on your own without being questioned, those statements can and will be used against you because you're not being interrogated. You're just starting to spout off. This is why it's imperative that you know your rights and you shouldn't rely on the police to read them to you. Affirmatively invoke your rights. Say, I'm invoking my right to remain silent and my right to my attorney. Once you do that, the police legally shouldn't continue questioning you without your attorney present. But remember, there's a second part to this equation. After invoking your rights, you must exercise those rights. That means you have to keep your mouth closed. Protect yourself. Don't let the legal system take advantage of you after an incident. And Law Shield members, if you've been involved in a self-defense incident, remember to call the emergency hotline and speak with your independent program attorney.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
That's right. A Georgia pastor and his wife have been charged with false imprisonment after people were found locked in their basement. according to Georgia officials. So Curtis Keith Bankston and Sophia Sim Bankston were running the unlicensed group home out of their rented Griffin house under the guise of a church known as One Step of Faith Second Chance. The Griffin Police Department said this in a statement. And so, man, I tell you, the Griffin Fire last week responded to a call about someone having a seizure at the home and noticed, hey, there's a dead bolt on the basement door. And according to police, crews had to climb through a window to reach the patient. Now, investigators determined that the people in the basement, all with mental and physical disabilities, were both essentially imprisoned against their will, which created an extreme hazard as individuals could not exit the residence if they were in an emergency. But you know what? When they asked the Bankstons about this, first there was no comment, no statement at all. And then they said, hey, hold on now. Wait. We're going to fight this with everything that we have, and there's no intention to have a plea. They have not done anything wrong, according to the attorney, and their community is standing behind them and their family standing behind them as well. They say, hey, they didn't do anything wrong. They're not imprisoning people. They said the lock was faulty, and that's why it locked these people inside the room there, is what they're saying.
It sounds safe. Yeah. I hope they were all wearing masks down there. And I hope he was administering vaccines to all of his
it's funny
prisoners.
you say that. Let's talk about masks for a second, because when I think of something that's airborne, it's going to affect me or something like that, I think of, really covering up my head, my eyes, my ears, my mouth, my hands, putting on a suit, putting on boots, and making sure I don't, get something,
Mm-hmm. There's pictures of people wearing that at Walmart.
Oh, well,
There's people in hazmat suits being do you not understand? Yeah, well, no, but I know what you're saying. You're saying that
that's the way to protect
if you're
yourself.
just wearing a mask, you're not doing it. You're just doesn't do anything. You
What
got
about
to be in
your
a full
eyes?
hazmat suit.
Yeah, if someone sneezes, that's just because you cover your mouth. That's not going to protect you because it can go in your eyes.
Well, I mean, it's unrelated, but I think that a lot of people who have been super careful for the whole pandemic are at a higher risk of getting more sick because they've just come in contact with so few germs and bacteria that the second that they go to a party or
That's why
wherever you were last night, they go, if they were there, then they all of a sudden they're breathing in.
I stood in the middle of the room
bacteria.
and I exhaled. I inhaled and exhaled.
Right, but I think that if you have stayed inside for the past 2 years, you go out to a crowded place and breathe, you're going to get sick. So
yeah,
I can only imagine the bacteria in this pastor's basement.
What do you think?
Yeah, I saw a great tweet by a guy named Anthony Vera. He said, masked people are walking around grocery stores upset about empty shelves and completely clueless that their compliance caused it.
Yeah.
What I think's funny is that, like, I'll do comedy and there'll be somebody in the audience with a mask on sitting down while, the other 95, 99% of the audience doesn't have a mask on sitting down. And every time, like, they're always fully vaccinated or boosted as well. Like last night, I was like, "Are you have the booster?" And she's like, shamefully, like, this. The funniest thing was I asked her a question. She pulled her mask down and shook her head and didn't actually say anything. She just pulled it down to shake her head and put it back on, which I obviously made fun of her for, and everybody laughed.
What kills me is when people walk into a room, they walk in, they're masked up, and then they sit down and they're like, okay, as soon as they get to their table, they take their mask off and like, okay, I'm at the table, I'm safe.
Yeah, well, if you see somebody do that, they're dumb.
Yeah, it was completely ridiculous at the race this morning. Okay, so there's basically the starting chute, all right, and it's probably 100 feet that you have to run through, and it's basically the width of a 4-lane road, okay, and you can't go to the beginning of the chute. You can't start through it unless you have a mask on, and they have people with masks, the little blue surgical mask. They hand it to you, and you put it on, and you run under the big starting arch, and then you get about 10 feet past that, and they have trash cans where you can take your mask off and throw it in the trash.
Did you do that?
Oh my goodness, that's so stupid.
How many people died of myocarditis at this marathon?
What was the purpose of that? Like, why? I don't get it.
I think they have photographers in that area.
So they want you to be on camera.
Uh-huh.
showing that you're jogging, you're in this race with a mask on.
Yeah, and at the finish, they also had people with masks trying to hand you a mask so you could wear it as you're crossing
How about
the
you hand me
finish
some
line.
oxygen because
And
I'm about to die
I was
right
like,
now.
nah, I'm good. No thanks.
Oh my goodness.
That seems smart. I don't know. Everybody's dumb now. It's very sad to see that.
It's posturing.
But I mean,
really.
honestly, people who run marathons are kind of annoying. So
Kind of crazy, some of us.
I'm glad it was a bad experience. Every time, honestly, because every marathon, they just all it is ruining other people's days because they shut
Road
down
shutdowns.
roads, and it's always for some stupid bank that's like doing it for like whatever.
This
trans.
is 3M. They make masks
Yeah,
and
it's
other
the trans
healthcare equipment.
Oh
marathon.
yeah, that's right. They're pushing their product. Oh, my bad. Sorry, 3M. That's right. Wear those masks.
And they make sticky things you put on the wall to hang other stuff on.
That's right. Yeah. Sorry, didn't mean to talk bad about 3M. My bad.
They're a sponsor, Michael.
That's right. Oopsie. Sorry. All right. So the FBI says it's conducting court-authorized law enforcement activity at a congressman's Texas home. Did you hear about that story, Zach?
No.
Yeah. So
Which
apparently, there's a congressman in Texas, and it's down in let's see, Representative Henry Cuellar's. I can't say his last name. Cuellar, there we go. Henry Cuellar, Laredo, Texas home. The agency confirmed in a short statement Wednesday. Cuellar's office said in a statement that he will fully cooperate in any way that he can. And so something's going on down there in Laredo, Texas. Something's always going on down south, close to the border. So, and the FBI is investigating. So something's going on with them. I think that's kind of strange. What do you think?
What exactly is happening with these people?
That's the funny thing. The reports are coming out. There's an investigation, and no one's saying anything.
He might have also had disabled people in his basement.
They're not telling us anything. It's like that's all you're gonna say. That's it. My goodness, do some reporting. They're not doing any reporting whatsoever.
I feel like everybody's under investigation.
Ask some questions. My goodness, something happens, and whenever a news story comes out, I have so many different questions. What kind of gun was used? What caliber was it? Where'd the gun come from? Was it a stolen gun? Did it get it from their parents? I always have so many questions, and none of those questions I've answered.
Wasn't me. I didn't do it.
He didn't do it. All right. So, where are you going to perform next?
I will be. I'll be at the Creek in the Cave on Thursday. If you want to follow me on social media,
Creek in the Cave.
Ben Bankas 2 on Instagram. BenBankas 2, the number 2, because I had my first account banned by China or whoever. That's on Instagram, at Ben Bankas on Twitter, benbankas.com. So Creek in the Cave in Austin. And just shoot me a message on Instagram. I'll let you know what's going on.
Do you know why you were banned? What did
Yeah,
you
I don't
say in
know. Like I said, I had a couple things that got flagged. It's usually pictures of tweets that actually are like the most dangerous on Instagram. So if you take a screenshot of a tweet and you post it on Instagram, like I posted I don't know if you know this, but 420 is like the weed day, right? But it's also Hitler's. So I was like, happy 420 / Hitler's birthday. That was hate speech. Obviously I was joking. But they're like, yeah,
he got blocked for that.
White
That was
supremacist.
one of your bings.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay. All right. So, and also over in Detroit, a toddler shoots himself in the head with a gun. I'm seeing a lot of stories lately where little kids are getting access to firearms from the parents. And I'm telling you, I want to send a message here of safety to all of my parents out there. The best way to keep guns away from kids is to lock them. We want to be safe. We want to be able to protect ourselves. We also want to make sure that we keep the guns away from kids. So you can't hide the guns from kids. You have to lock the guns from kids. So get some type of lock, some type of device where you can put in a code, get access to the firearm for personal protection, and, defend yourself, also protect the family, and also keep the gun away from the kids when you're not there, because kids get curious, and they also get curious when their friends are around, and teenagers, younger, their buddies, their friends come over. They're influenced by these friends, and they tend to, say, hey, let's look at your dad's gun or your mom's gun. And so to help stop that curiosity, we need to make sure we lock them. You can't hide them. You have to lock them. You may think, your son, your daughter is going to be responsible. You think they're a responsible person, which they may be. But then what happens when their friends come over to visit? That peer pressure is something else. And to prevent that, we need to lock them. Because I'm tired of seeing these stories, story after story, of someone, getting a toddler, a child, getting their parent's gun and then accidentally shooting, killing themselves. So you have to lock them. Like I always say, as always, more guns equals less crime. Now you go out there and you buy yourself a gun. You've been listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.